Welcome to Generative AI Futures. Today, we are going to break your brain a little bit. We spend so much time talking about using AI to generate text or images or maybe a little Python script to automate a spreadsheet.
Right, the surface level.
That is the surface level. But today, we're looking at something much more meta. Usually, we use frameworks like PyTorch or TensorFlow to build AI models. That's the standard flow.
Humans write the framework builds the model.
But what happens when you flip that script? What if we use AI agents to write the deep learning framework itself?
It is the ultimate recursive concept. I mean,
It is.
building, and just to be clear for everyone listening right off the bat, we aren't talking about a wrapper or a simple interface here.
No.
We are talking about the deep, messy plumbing of deep learning software, the stuff that usually requires a PhD in systems engineering to touch without breaking everything.
Right. We are diving into a project called VibeTensor. It's an open source research system created by researchers at Nvidia. And the premise is honestly kind of wild.
It really is.
They set out to answer a specific hard systems question. Can coding agents generate a coherent, functioning deep learning stack that crosses all those difficult abstraction boundaries? From high-level Python or JavaScript all the way down to C++ and CUDA memory management.
Without humans reviewing the code line by line.
Exactly, without the line-by-line review.
And that no line-by-line review part is the real kicker here. Because anyone who has written system software knows it is incredibly unforgiving. If you get a pointer wrong in C++ or mess up a memory stream in CUDA, which is how we talk to the GPU, the whole thing just crashes.
Right.
Usually, you need a team of senior engineers staring at every single commit. VibeTensor asks, can we replace that human oversight with automated tests and just let the AI figure out the implementation details?
It sounds like walking a tightrope without a net. So let's unpack this. We have this thing called VibeTensor. It sounds like a sci-fi gadget, but it's a software stack. What exactly do these AI agents build?
They build a fully functional deep learning runtime. Think of it as a cousin to PyTorch. It has a C++20 core, which is the heavy lifting layer that talks to the hardware.
Okay.
It has a caching allocator to manage GPU memory, which is notoriously difficult. It has an autograd engine for backpropagation. That's the math that allows neural networks to learn by calculating errors.
And it has language binding.
Right, and it has language bindings, meaning you can talk to this C++ core using Python, which we expect, but also, surprisingly, Node.js.
Node.js, as in JavaScript, the language used for websites.
The very same. It's a fascinating choice that we'll dig into later because it actually reveals a lot about how the agents view system architecture. But the key distinction here is the fully generated label. The humans provided high-level guidance goals, priorities. We need a tensor class that does X.
Right.
But the actual code, the diffs or changes to the files, were proposed by large language model agents.
Okay, I want to get into the how, because this sounds like magic and I know it isn't. Do you just open up a chatbot and say, hey, write me a PyTorch clone, please, and go get coffee?
If you did that, you'd probably get a very convincing-looking hallucination that doesn't actually compile. You'd get code that looks right but doesn't work.
Right.
The methodology they used is what they call vibe coding. But don't let the casual name fool you. It's actually a very structured, rigorous workflow. It's an iterative loop designed to constrain the AI.
Walk us through the loop. How does the agent know it hasn't messed everything up?
So imagine a four-step cycle. Step 1. The human specifies a scoped goal and a set of invariants. These are the hard rules that must not be broken, like memory must always be freed, or outputs must be float 32.
Okay.
Step 2. The AI agents propose changes to the code. They generate a diff.
Okay, so far that sounds like standard coding assistance.
But step 3 is where it changes. Step 3 is automated validation. The agents don't just hand the code to the human. They run the build scripts. They run the test suites. They perform differential checks.
So the agent tries to build its own code.
The agent effectively acts like a developer sitting at a terminal running the compiler. Precisely. And here is the reality of coding. Things break. If the build fails or a test turns red, the agent sees that error message, the stritter output.
And it has to fix it.
It has to fix it. It enters a self-correction loop. The truth isn't what the human thinks is good code. The truth is whether the tests pass.
But wait, if humans aren't reviewing the code, how do we know the tests are enough? You mentioned no line-by-line review. Is that actually safe? I mean, I can write a test that passes but still does the wrong thing.
And that is the big shift in philosophy. Usually, code review is the safety net, where a senior engineer spots a potential bug or a security flaw. Here, the safety net is the test suite.
Yep.
They used ctest for the C++ side and PyTest for the Python side. If the agent broke a test, it had to fix it before the code was accepted. It treats the test suite as the absolute specification of the software.
That puts a massive amount of pressure on having good tests. Did they have any other guardrails? Because an agent could theoretically write code that passes a compilation check but outputs 2 + 2 = 5.
You're exactly right. Passing a compilation check doesn't mean the math is right. So they use something called differential checks. This is really clever.
How does that work?
Since they are building a deep learning framework, they have a gold standard to compare against. PyTorch itself.
The answer key.
Exactly. If the agent implements matrix multiplication or a specific activation function, the validation system runs the VibeTensor version and the PyTorch version side by side with the exact same input data.
And if they don't match?
If the outputs don't match down to a very specific floating point tolerance, the agent failed. It doesn't matter if the code looks pretty. If the math is wrong, it's rejected.
And I saw something in the notes about multi-agent review as well.
Yes, this is another layer of defense.
Yeah.
They would have one AI agent write the code and a completely different AI agent critique it. The second agent is prompted to look for unsafe patterns, like memory leaks, race conditions, or undefined behavior that a compiler might miss.
So it's like having an AI peer review your code before it even gets to the test phase?
That's it. It's a self-correcting ecosystem. It's not just one smart bot. It's a team of bots checking each other and checking the math against a known standard.
That is fascinating. So they have this rigorous process. Now let's look under the hood of what they actually built. We mentioned the C++ core. What are the big components here?
So at the heart of VibeTensor is the core runtime. It follows the define by run philosophy.
Which is what exactly?
It's the same eager execution model PyTorch uses. It means when you write a line of code like add tensor A to tensor B, it happens immediately. It doesn't wait for you to define the whole graph first.
Got it.
This core handles the tensors, which are just the multidimensional arrays of numbers, and the storage and the views of that data.
And to make that work, you need something to direct traffic.
Right. That's the dispatcher. It's a schemalite operator registry. When you type vt.add in Python, the dispatcher routes that request to the correct kernel, maybe a CPU kernel if you're on a laptop, or a CUDA kernel if you're on a GPU.
Kernel is a word we throw around a lot. For the listener, let's clarify. That's basically the specific little program that does the actual math on the hardware, right?
Exactly. It's the worker bee.
Huh.
The dispatcher is the queen telling the bee where to go. Now, for deep learning, you can't just add numbers. You need to learn from them. That means gradients.
Which brings us to the autograd engine.
Yes, the agents build a reverse mode engine. It manages the dependency graph, the DAGI, and handles gradient accumulation. This is complex stuff.
Very complex.
It involves tracking every operation you do in the forward pass so you can work backward to update the model. If you get this wrong, the model doesn't learn. The fact that an AI built a functional autograd engine is, frankly, startling.
The part that stood out to me in the notes was the memory management. The agents built a CDEC hashing allocator. Now, I know memory management is usually where human programmers cry themselves to sleep. Why is this significant?
It is the source of so many nightmares in systems programming. Allocating memory on a GPU is expensive. It takes time. So you don't want to ask the GPU for memory every single time you need to store a number.
You want to reuse it.
You want to grab a big chunk and reuse it. That's a caching allocator. The agents built a stream-ordered caching allocator. But here's a detail I loved. It includes built-in diagnostics.
Oh, interesting.
It has snapshots, statistics, and what they call garbage collection ladders to help debug memory leaks.
Wait, so the AI didn't just build the allocator, it built the tools to debug the allocator.
Yes. Often, in human-led projects, diagnostics are bolted on later when things break and everyone is panicking. Here, they were part of the generation process, likely because the agents needed them to pass the tests. It's a case of the agent being lazy in a smart way building tools to help itself solve the problem during the build phase.
That's a great insight. It's building its own ladder to get out of the hole. Now, let's circle back to Node.js. Why on earth is a deep learning framework talking to JavaScript? Usually, serious AI is a Python monopoly.
It is a surprising addition. Python is the lingua franca of AI. But VibeTensor includes an experimental interface using Node API. It treats heavy computational work as asynchronous tasks.
Ah, okay.
This is crucial because JavaScript is single-threaded. You don't want to block the event loop while you multiply a giant matrix or your whole website freezes.
So this bridges the gap between the massive web developer community and deep learning internals.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier to entry. Right now, if you're a web dev, AI is this black box you hit via an API. This allows for local, structured interaction with tensors directly in Node. It opens up some really interesting doors for web-based AI apps running locally.
And it shows the agents can handle different programming models.
Right. It shows the AI agents were able to navigate two very different programming paradigms, Python's synchronous nature and Node's asynchronous nature simultaneously.
Okay, we have a dispatcher, an autograd engine, sophisticated memory management. But the big question is, does it actually work? Or is this just a very complicated way to print hello world?
It works. They didn't just run unit tests, they ran end-to-end training loops. They validated it on some serious hardware too, Nvidia H100s and the new Blackwell class GPUs.
What kind of models did they train?
They started small with a sequence reversal task using a 2-layer transformer. Then they stepped it up to a vision transformer on the CFAR10 image dataset.
Okay.
And finally, they trained a mini GPT-style model on Shakespeare data.
So it can write Shakespeare, or at least faux Shakespeare. To be or not to be, that is the tensor.
You can learn the patterns, yes. The loss curves went down, the accuracy went up. Functionally, it is a working deep learning framework.
Okay, functionally it works, but is it fast? If I'm an engineer, am I swapping out PyTorch for VibeTensor tomorrow?
Absolutely not. And this is where we need a reality check. VibeTensor is significantly slower than PyTorch.
Give me the damage. How much slower?
Across the workloads, the slowdown ranged from about 1.7x to 6.2x.
Ouch! 6 times slower is an eternity in the AI world where people count milliseconds. Why the drag?
Well, it's a prototype. The
Yeah.
primary goal was coherence, making the parts fit together and not crash. Optimization was a secondary concern.
Right. The test asks, did you get the right answer? Not, did you get the right answer in under 5 microseconds?
Exactly. When you generate code based on passing tests, you get code that is correct but not necessarily fast. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, there's a kernel surprise.
The kernel surprise.
While the system overall is slow, the individual kernels, remember, those worker bees doing the math, were often incredibly fast.
Really?
Yes. They used a suite of AI-generated kernels written in Triton and Qt-decel.
Give us some numbers on the bees.
Their AI-generated RMS norm kernel showed a 6.3x speedup over the baseline. And their fused attention kernel actually beat PyTorch's implementation, which uses flash attention by about 1.54x in the forward pass for certain batch sizes.
Wait, I want to make sure I understand this. The individual muscles of this body are super strong. Some are stronger than what humans wrote, but the nervous system is reacting slowly.
And that's a perfect analogy. The math on the GPU is blazing fast, but the orchestration, the plumbing that feeds data to those kernels, is clogged up.
This leads us directly to a concept mentioned in the source that I found hilarious and terrifying, the Frankenstein effect.
Yes, this is perhaps the most critical lesson of the entire project. The Frankenstein effect describes a situation where you have subsystems that are locally correct. They pass their unit tests, they look logical in isolation.
But when you stitch them together,
They interact to produce a globally suboptimal system.
the parts are good, but the whole is a monster.
It's a slow monster.
Yeah.
The prime example in VibeTensor is what they call the global serialization gate.
That sounds ominous. What did the AI do?
To ensure safety, specifically to avoid deadlocks in the autograd engine, the AI agents introduced a gate or a lock. It makes sure that backward passes don't trip over each other. It's a very correct solution from a safety standpoint.
It passes the test.
It passes the test, it prevents crashes,
What?
but it serializes execution. It forces the system to handle one thing at a time in the backward pass. So you have these blazing fast attention kernels we just talked about sitting on the GPU, ready to crunch numbers at light speed.
And they're just waiting around?
They are starved of work because this global serialization gate upstream is feeding them one spoon of data at a time.
So the safety feature became the bottleneck. The AI played it too safe.
Exactly. It highlights a limitation of this correctness first generation method. The agents solved for don't crash, but they didn't have the global context to solve for high throughput architecture.
They couldn't see the forest for the trees, so they built a fence around every single tree.
That's a great way to put it. It proves that AI architecture still needs that high-level systemic vision. The agents are great at the what and the how of individual tasks, but the how it all fits together, the synthesis, is where the Frankenstein effect creeps in.
Despite the Frankenstein parts, VibeTensor does have some pretty advanced capabilities for a prototype. I saw mention of fabric and multi-GPU support.
Yes, for a generated prototype, the feature set is surprisingly rich. They built an experimental subsystem called Fabric for peer-to-peer GPU access, and they even generated a ring-all-reduce plugin for the new Blackwell GPUs.
Ring all reduce, that's for distributed training, right? Like when you link a bunch of GPUs together.
Correct. It's basically a bucket brigade algorithm for averaging out the learning across multiple chips so they stay in sync. Usually, you would just use Nvidia's standard library in CCL for this. It's the industry standard.
But the AI didn't.
The AI built its own communication ring using CTLAS. It didn't just call a library. It built the logic for passing data between GPUs from scratch.
That seems like showing off. I could use the library, but I'll just write my own distributed communication protocol.
It's the ultimate not invented here syndrome, but automated. But it serves a purpose.
Yeah.
It proves the agents can handle that level of complexity. It proves they can write code that coordinates hardware at a physical level.
It's not just manipulating text.
It's not just manipulating text, it's manipulating electricity and silicon.
So, putting it all together, VibeTensor, is it the future? Is this how all software will be written?
It's a verdict with nuance. VibeTensor is not a product. It isn't replacing PyTorch or TensorFlow today. You wouldn't put this in production. The Frankenstein bottlenecks are too real, and the speed just isn't there yet.
But it matters.
It matters immensely. It is a significant milestone artifact. It proves that AI agents can handle the complexity of system software. We aren't just generating scripts or simple apps anymore.
Yeah.
We are generating the runtime, the memory management, the interaction between Python and C++ and the GPU. That is a massive leap in capability.
It's like watching a toddler take their first steps. They might be wobbly and they might fall over, but the fact that they are walking changes everything.
And they are walking into a very complex room.
Yeah.
The fact that the validation, loop build, test, fix worked well enough to produce a training-capable framework is the real breakthrough here. It suggests that with better prompts, better global context, or maybe a lead architect agent, those Frankenstein seams could be smoothed out.
So what does this all mean for the listener? If you're a developer, should you be worried? If you're a business leader, should you be excited?
If you're a developer, you should be attentive. This shows that the grunt work of connecting systems, writing bindings, managing memory allocations, ensuring test coverage is becoming automatable. That frees you up to think about the architecture, to avoid the Frankenstein effect.
You become the architect, not the bricklayer.
Precisely. The value shifts from knowing the syntax to understanding the system. You need to know why a global serialization gate is bad, so you can tell the AI not to build one.
I love that. It's always about the bigger picture. Before we go, what's one final thought you want to leave with our listeners?
We talked about the Frankenstein effect, how the AI built a system that was correct but unoptimized because it lacked global vision.
Right, the global serialization gate issue.
Well, consider this. VibeTensor was a research prototype built in a couple of months. If AI agents can already write their own deep learning stack today, essentially bootstrapping their own infrastructure, how long until they learn to profile that code? How long until an agent looks at that global serialization gate, realizes it's a bottleneck, and rewrites the architecture to be faster than anything a human could design? We might be looking at the ancestors of the systems that will build the real AI future.
That is both exciting and slightly terrifying. The idea of the AI optimizing its own brain is a perfect place to leave it.
It's the ultimate optimization loop.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. It's been a wild ride through the guts of AI-generated software.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating time to be watching this space.
And thank you for listening. Keep asking the hard questions and don't be afraid to look under the hood. You never know what or who wrote the code you'll find there. We'll see you next time on Generative AI Futures.